Welcome to another episode of Nothing Moves Without Us, a Black culture podcast. On every episode, Thomas and I discuss shows, movies, and music from the past 30 plus years that have played a pivotal role in the Black experience.
We are the culture. Nothing moves without us. We are the culture, yeah.
We are culture. Nothing moves without us. Welcome back, guys. How's everything, Cliff?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I was saying before that it's been like 2 months since you came on the mic happy, so I'm finally glad to have some good energy this time.
Yeah, man. Normally, I need to have our conversation in order for me to have a better day, or in order to kind of catapult my week. But this year has been starting out pretty good. So yeah, man, good stuff. How's your week going?
It's going good. Everything's a blur, man. Everything just feels like a blur, which is good and bad. I told you before, like I'm thinking about like switching up jobs, doing something more customer service focused because I just like doing it. Like I love my retail days, man. I love retail. I love the chaos, the uniqueness of each day. So I kind of want that in my professional life, and planning like for 5 years ahead to kind of pivot a bit more. So good start to the new year for me.
Word. Well, similar with me, man. I feel like I'm doing some pivoting myself, and it's all really focusing on how I can better, just be better in the decisions I'm making and some of the things I'm doing. So it's great to hear that you're in a place where you're about to elevate in a whole nother level. So I dig it.
Yes, sir, man. I'm excited for it, but just taking baby steps, and last year has kind of just been instrumental with that. This podcast, and like I said, reimagining myself and the Black experience, celebrating Kwanzaa. I think we talked. You said you weren't able to go to an event because of COVID.
Yeah, I ended up not going to an event, but I did participate in a virtual opportunity. So that was
Cool.
dope.
How was that?
It was different. It wasn't obviously doing it in person, but it was cool to be able to have a better understanding because you and I did an episode, so I wasn't in the dark,
Right.
which is great, and just seeing how, just like you and I talking about it on the episode, how people celebrate it with Christmas, or some people celebrate it against Christmas. They're like, we're doing one or the other. It was cool to see how everything just came together in real time, in person, um, beyond the conversation you and I had. So that
Right.
was cool. How about you?
It was a dope experience. Erica and I went to a parade on the night of January 6th, sorry, 26th. And initially, I think I did a recording on my TikTok that it felt disheartening because no one, like, those are like five people there, man. It was like five
Wow.
people there. And they had these young girls, the Diamond Divas, like dancing and performing. And I'm just like, damn, this is what it is. I was sad, bro. I was sad. And then like we marched through the streets with them. They led the parade dancing, and then we ended up in this cultural center. And then like there were mad people there. It's like this nice size auditorium, and we just stayed for like this event for like 2 hours. Different cultural, like singing, dancing, performances, written word dancing, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Every night, I lit the Kenora, and Eric and I had dinner, or we just kind of and we sat and just talked about either the principal or just our lives and things that were going on. Got a lot of love on TikTok because I posted a video in maybe early December, and it's get a lot of love from people who were celebrating for the first time, people who um, were celebrating maybe like the second or third time, people giving suggestions on how I should do it. So it was dope to kind of have that. It was dope to have that experience, and I'm just thinking of next year, new ways to kind of just expand and make it more community focused and make it more more homey, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I love to hear that, man. I was gonna say, even though I think my analogy is gonna be a terrible one, but it's what popped into my head, so I'm gonna stick with it. To me, it's kind of like going to the gym, right? You go to the gym the first day, when you get there trying to figure out how to use the equipment, you're trying to figure out
Right.
what works. You're like, man, I don't know if I really want to be here, but this is something that's going to help me. This is something I'm learning from. And then
Right.
you're there, a month, you're there 6 months, a year, and by the time you're there a year, you have routine. You've learned the equipment that you needed to learn. You're moving throughout the space in a more effective way. And I feel like when you share that around Kwanzaa, it's the same type of thing. It's like the first time celebrating it, even with me seeing it virtually, it was a little bit of a challenge. I was a little, I was confused, but I'm sure if you and I didn't do that episode, I would have been even way, I would have been like lost. But I was a little more, aligned with what was going on compared to next year, the year after, 5 years from now. If I continue it up, and to your point, like you said, now you have some ideas on how you want to celebrate it next
Right.
year. And I really love to hear that. So that's dope. Sorry to use the gym analogy, but I think
No. That's a dope analogy because that's exactly how like the experience was for me. Like even with people telling me, but making suggestions, I'm like, nah, this is my first time. I want to feel it out. I just want to do different things. I want to feel it out. I want to see what what I naturally get inspired by. Because like I don't learn well from repetition. I don't really follow directions well. I'm someone who just likes to kind of do my own thing. So I wanted to do that first, and then next year I'll have more time to read. Next year I'll have more time to study and just kind of fine tune it, right? And it's the first time, so I can freestyle it as much as I need to. But the more, like you said, the more I do it, the more I show up at the gym, the easier everything becomes, and it's just second nature. Like I still had to go through the website, the official Kwanzaa website, and I look at the word for the day. Like I can't. I'm not gonna memorize 7 principles. Like I'm not
yeah,
there yet, but the memory's there. So like the more I do it, the more naturally it'll flow down the line. Um,
yeah. And another thing that just popped into my head is this. I feel like it's the same thing with Christmas. I feel like as a kid, you don't know everything about Christmas, but your family teaches you. This is Christmas, and
right,
this is these are some of the rules of Christmas or how Christmas works. But if you never followed it in your whole childhood and adult life, and then one day they're like, "We're celebrating Christmas," you're gonna be like, "What's that?
right,
How do I
right,
do this?" So I think Kwanzaa, because it's still kind of being adopted and adapted, people are adapting to it. It's the type of thing where you follow the principles, but also create your own way of doing it. And I really really love that. That's something that you shared in our previous episode about how do I bridge the gap between being Haitian American and what Kwanzaa represents. And I love to be able to hear you share that years down the line when that
right,
time comes, and hear about how you've been able to incorporate both. So
right. It was dope. Like at the first night celebration, they had like elders from the Denver area, and he was like, anyone who's celebrating Kwanzaa for more than 10 years, more than 20 years, more than 30 years, more than 40 years, and you see people raising their hand, and it's like this has been something that's been long standing for years. And we talked about this feeling like no one partakes in it, right? But it's also about the our individual awareness and knowing that it's there, right? Like I could have like I did research, right? Like I wanted to see like what was going on, and I could have just kept it home throughout the 7 days. But the research allowed me to kind of go out there and again feel that community. Like I said, I started the night with disappointment, but it ended with just saying like, "Yo, this is something rich that people are celebrating." Again, it's my responsibility to be aware of it and to push the experience forward. I
word.
know I shared a clip about Judge Joe Brown talking
Yeah,
about
I was about to
the
bring
the
that up.
founder of Kwanzaa. And yeah, just a interesting perspective. I was listening to the Star Report, and one of his regulars who comes on the show, her name is Dana, and she does a show with Judge Joe Brown. And Judge Joe Brown was saying that he doesn't celebrate Kwanzaa because the founder used to work with the feds, and he like locked up. He used Kwanzaa as a way to get black people together to talk more freely and openly. And he used that to kind of snitch and incriminate black people. And he was just kind of sharing his perspective on like not really messing with the doctor, thinking that he's a turncoat and a race traitor. And while I was watching it, I was like, the initial feeling was like, like is nothing pure, right? Like is nothing pure. And granted, I haven't done my research, because it could be either way. But this the initial feeling, like damn, like is this the real root behind it? Like is this another finesse? But then coming to terms like who cares, right? Like the celebration is a celebration. So, what were your thoughts when you watched that clip?
Yeah, so I actually have seen several clips with Judge Joe Brown previous to you sending me this one. So I kind of had an idea of the energy that he was going to give immediately
Right,
when I clicked on it. I was like, oh, it's one of these. But I understand where he was coming from. I hear him. I thought what was the young lady's name? You said it,
Dana.
Dana. So
Yeah,
I feel like Dana, what she does really well is she allows him to share his perspective and then totally ignores it. She's like, yeah, you feel this way. You're entitled to feel this way, but what about this, and this? And one of the things that she asked him that I thought was really spot on was like, yeah, you feel this way about this person, but what about what Kwanzaa represents?
right.
Is that good for Black people? And he still was like, I'm all about the person. He kept going back to how he felt about the person,
Right.
and so my thoughts is like, hey, just because you know someone created something that is someone created something and that person may not be the best person doesn't mean what they created isn't remarkable or isn't incredible or isn't something that can help people. Um, there's so many different things out there that we celebrate, so many different people we celebrate who are scumbags, quite honestly, who've done terrible things, but we still celebrate them. We still celebrate what they represent, what they created. We wear their clothes. We buy their, we buy their books,
We
and
live in that country, right?
yeah, we don't have any problem with it. So I wasn't. I hear what he's saying, and you can't take that away because that's how he feels. But to another point that you made, when you were going to a celebration and they're asking, have you been celebrating this 20, 30, 40 years? And people are raising their hands. Those people to me see the value beyond what what the creator, what the organizer essentially started it as. So
Allegedly, that's what
yeah,
right.
that is true. Allegedly, yeah. Uh, so yeah, that's what I got from it. But I thought it was a great video. So I appreciate you sharing it because another thing about our podcast that I really really love, and I can speak for myself. I find that a lot of things that I don't normally pay attention to, I see more or have more meaning to me from a content and from looking at videos online than I did previous to us doing this podcast. So certain things I see about certain articles and things like that, where you and I just send stuff to each other to check it out, and if we do, we do. If we don't, we don't.
Right.
But it aligns with what we're talking about in the Black experience. So really, really love that because that was cool to be able to just dive into that after we had our conversation in our episode. So
Right. And like you know, I always try to be objective. I care about both perspectives always. And if the like the intent wasn't important, right? If I was so focused on, or if we were so focused on what the original work was, then it'd be like, yo, this is just another flim flam, another black hustler, and all of that. And I could have been like, you know what, I'm not doing it anymore. But the growth, the understanding what's more important, and I think that's part of like I feel like that's what you just said, like being more aware of everything going on. You realize what's more important at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what he created as the individual. What matters is the celebration, the community, and the principles. Like like really going through those principles, man, and like really this again, like I said, interacting with people on TikTok and talking about it here with Erica. I see the value in them, man. Like they just encompass everything an individual and the community needs to thrive. So yeah, it's culture, right? The culture is more important than the individual. That's what matters.
yeah, you can say I don't rock with this person. I don't believe in what this person has done, but still admire their work if it's
Right.
positive work. Um, and you just shared your reasoning on why there's value there. So I'm all for it, man. the perspective is great, and again, I'm glad we actually did that episode because I learned a lot, and yeah, hopefully we have more breakthroughs like that, just random things that pop up.
Yeah.
I think it's been dope. So to kind of piggyback off of some of the things that we were sharing with Judge Joe Brown, and or I was sharing about him being a hot being hot on the mic sometime. Wanted to quickly get your thoughts around this whole thing around Antonio Brown. So Antonio Brown is an NFL player. He's a wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's been on several teams in the NFL, and he has a reputation of being a hothead. He's done several things to be considered that way. You know, whether it's leaving his team, walking out on his teams, or getting in trouble for helmets. Like there's always something on each team that has led to him either being suspended or his contract terminated. So in this last instance, the reason I think this is something that's important, or in this most recent instance with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he was cut from the team, which he's not officially cut, but they said he was cut from the team. The coaches said he's cut from the team because he wouldn't go back into a game during the game. The coaches told him to go in. He wouldn't go in. On the sideline, they told him he was cut. And he was like, since I'm cut, I'm out. So he took off all his stuff, threw it into the crowd, threw it into the stands, and left. And the reason I wanted to bring this up and talk about it is because initially it was reported that he gave up on his team. And one thing that I can say about him is that he does have a lot of off the field issues, but when he's in the game, he's one of the best. He's probably one of the top receivers in the game, and he's one of the top players in the game. And he's a Hall of Famer. But this was the first time people have seen him actually like act up during a game and not at a press conference or outside of the off the field. So the reason I wanted to connect with you about it and get your thoughts is because it was initially reported he quit on his team. And then come to find out he was injured. He's been injured.
Right.
So, and there's a lot that was thrown around his mental health. So I wanted to just get your thoughts. I don't know what you heard about it, so I'm sure you're going to share what you heard about the situation, and just get your thoughts about that. And then I have a couple questions I would love to hear from you as well.
All right. So just to start, I don't watch football. I've stopped. I mean, for the most part, I've stopped watching sports altogether, just because it's a different game, and all of my countless reasons. So most of my understanding is from watching the Star Report and listen to other sports commentators or people who like really know sports talk about it. And I mean, to everything you said, my understanding is that he was injured. He said I think he had a issue with his ankle, and they took it as him not wanting to. The coach took it as him not wanting to play and not play for the team, and the coach cut him on the spot, which coach can't do. They're like, he quit and he dipped. I feel that. Right? If the coach, again, number one, the coach doesn't have the authority to do that. And to me, it comes over. I see two things. One is the coach being petty, right? And the second one is I always see the race dynamic behind it, right? I always see some type of racial dynamic behind it, right? The sports, modern day sports, it's the new slave trade, right? So, my work isn't doing what I want him to do, so I tell him he's gone. I guess what's more your specific questions, because
Yeah. No.
I agree with what he did.
Yeah. So I love. That's exactly what I was hoping you would say, because I feel the same exact way. I think that when it came to him walking out and the way it happened, it initially felt like it's a race thing, right? If Tom Brady said my ankle's hurting, they would say they would surround him with medical staff. We would see literally during the game with 5 people around him taping
Right.
up his ankle, right? But because Antonio Brown is this troubled, loose cannon, he can't be hurt, and because he played on it, it's a whole nother thing. So exactly what you said. But the reason the question I have is twofold. One is the race aspect, but also the mental health aspect. He was being treated, and he is being treated. Not was he is being treated as this guy that every interview I watch, people are saying that he's a loose cannon and he's been troubled all his life, and it's like, wait until you get the facts, right? The facts matter. And I
Right.
think a lot of times people, for whatever reason, we, especially in, like you said, the modern day slave trade, we we don't look at all the facts. We go by what happens in this instance, and we don't continue to look at the facts. And that was something that, real, if I was him, I would be pissed. Like, you're questioning my mental health because I walked out. He didn't do anything else. I could see if he went and punched on his way out, he punched somebody in the face or something. He,
Right.
he literally just left.
I'm
So
fired. I'm out. Right.
yeah,
Like that's what we do at work.
so that aspect was big. And then I don't know if you saw, but he's since released a statement. This like 2-page statement, and in this statement he says that he would never walk out on his teammates. He's like, I would never. That's not something. He's like, it bothers me that I'm being called out. I was injured. I told them I was injured. They told me if I don't go back in, I'm off the team. I didn't go back in, so I assumed I was off the team. And I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially that's what he was saying. He also went on to say, I'm gonna get you, sucker. He said, I'm gonna go get myself tested. I'm gonna get an opinion from a doctor that's not affiliated with the team,
Right.
and I'm gonna get my ankle looked at, which he did. Came back that his ankle is indeed injured, and now the narrative needs to change. I haven't had an opportunity. This happened within the last 24 hours, so I haven't had an opportunity to see what people are saying now. But initially, when it first happened, that's in my head. I was like, why is he being looked at this way? And um, and I'll get to my question. My question is, when it comes to black anything, but let's say black
I like
athletes,
that. Black anything.
because we just, how we everything. When it
Right.
comes to black athletes, anytime a black athlete does something, they had a bad upbringing, or they're from the hood, when these white boys be bugging out, when these white athletes be wilding out, it's cool. They
Right.
they they get it's okay. Um, and I could give examples like Aaron Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez murdered somebody, murdered somebody. That dude, he ended up getting caught later on, but there's so many different, paying man to teabag somebody in college, Hall of Fame quarterback.
Right.
So it just really like bothers me that certain athletes, and it's Antonio Brown shit. Antonio Brown does be bugging. He bugs out from time to time. I will say that, but we need to look at the facts before we assume anything with anybody. And um, so yeah, when it comes to black athletes, why black athlete? Because I'm considered an athlete. I'm professional, baby. Why are we why we always getting the short end of the stick? Because we got millions? Like, what are your thoughts?
That's the culture of the black experience, right? That's what the black experience has always been. Um, like I mean, even more recently, you think about Aaron Rodgers on the Green Bay Packers. Like when they asked him about his vaccine status, he said I have immunity.
I'm
You know, didn't
immunized.
didn't answer the question directly, and then they found out that he wasn't. You know, they took it how they wanted it. They know he was playing. They knew. I mean, I feel like you can assume, right, that he was doing a wordplay, and they took it how they wanted to take it. And then you find out that that he wasn't vaccinated, and like no one, like there's no uprise, there's no him being selfish, right? No one's attacking him the way they were attacking Kyrie Irving. I mean, it's just the hypocrisy and the standard, right? Ben Roethlisberger, right? He used to play with Antonio Brown, who was accused of sexual assault, I believe. You know,
Yep.
still in the league. Uh, Ray Rice, right? When he had that incident when he was on video, he got kicked off the team. Um, it's
Hasn't been back yet.
right.
Haven't been given another chance.
I think part of it is that the black experience. Sometimes, right? Some of these athletes, knowing that you're in the limelight, knowing that there's always attention on you, they don't. There isn't a desire like the handlers, all right. Like, everyone has handlers. Everyone should have handlers, right? If you're the money person, you should have handlers. You should have people who tell you to chill out, people who, take you away from situations. But it feels like there's just this need to show out. Like, Antonio Brown is rapping, right? I think he just dropped a single, I heard. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you let people into the other side of your life too much, right? I'm thinking about the Philadelphia Eagles player who was like in a rodeo or something, and he was like, I'll fight every nigga in here, right?
Cooper.
Cooper, there we go. And you realize that's who he is innately, right? That's who he is innately. That's something he probably says innately, but he never shows that side of himself. So we just think of him as, this is whatever position he plays. But I think a lot of the Black experience is being an athlete, but also being a name and being fame, being behind the mic, doing all these different things, and wanting to show out. And it rarely, the negative is the focus, right? The negative things become the focus, and that's what you get labeled as, because people need ratings and people need attention. So I think, at the end of the day, like going back to the slave trade, going back to the slave trade, blackness is just a commodity. And when you mess up, people are gonna focus on you and eat off of you. Like, I think that's just the reality. And they do that more to Black athletes compared to any other athlete.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. I'll leave it there. The Philadelphia Eagles player's name is Riley Cooper.
Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, spot on, man. So I appreciate your thoughts. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive into today's episode.
PJs projects, living in the PJs. I texted you like, yo, this joint is hilarious, man. This joint is hilarious.
So if you don't know, today we're talking about the PJs. Can you sing that again? I love. Can you do it again?
PJs projects, living in the PJs. Holding down a cardboard condo, homeboy in the homemade bungalow, in the middle of the end of the dead end one-way street. That was my song. I love when that song came up growing up, man. I love that song growing up, man.
Oh man, I love it. Well, we don't have to talk about that. So it's funny that you know the intro, because before we jumped on, I'm like, man, I need to figure out this intro. You're like, I got it.
I got it.
I love it, man. And then also, the cool thing about the intro to the song is very interesting song, very interesting lyrics, but the visual is pretty interesting too. Where Super is just doing these things when he's like walking around with a plunger and
Right.
and the light falls down, and it just that whole intro is just hilarious to me. So, but yeah, I guess we should just go ahead and dive into characters. That way we know who we're talking about.
Right.
And
what a dope cast. Sorry to cut short. Like growing up watching it, the only person I knew was Eddie Murphy. And that was the draw, Eddie Murphy was the comedian, he was the funny guy. So going through all these years and going back to it and listening to the voices, I'm like, yo, I know you from this, I know you from that, and it's thinking about like the 90s and how many Black shows just paved the way for other people to eat. Like you have Loretta Devine, who's Muriel, and Loretta Devine is also in the Carmichael Show, which is like probably one of the best shows I've watched in the past 5 years. Eddie Murphy, who is Thurgood Orenthal. Oh man, that's. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna just say, and you actually jumped into it, but I was also gonna say, at the time, I'm pretty sure I read this in the LA Times because I've been doing better on my research in the LA Times that the PJs was the first animated series that had an all Black cast.
Yeah, I was thinking
at the
about
time.
that because I've never seen any Black claymation shows. I think that's what I was mostly thinking about. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, they were the first to have an all Black cast. They were first to kind of use, or the first primetime series to use that type of stop motion animation, which is really cool. That it was really cool back then. Even now watching it, it was really cool to see how they use the animation. And and it tied into the characters. There was actually something there. So,
Right.
yeah, man, that was really 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 dope. And then you brought up you brought up Loretta Devine, you brought up Eddie Murphy, but even some of the names of I think the names of the characters that's what was killing me.
Right.
like like characters like Smokey, and then some of them when you look them up for their names, their official names are listed as cast members, but on the show they don't use their they don't use their official names,
Right.
which I thought is also very funny. So, but there's so many different personalities. Like the personalities are just wow. You got Calvin. Like I said, you got Smokey, Juicy.
Hey, super. Super.
Like, there's so many different characters, man. Everybody, Mrs. Avery. Everybody has. Who am I missing? Rasta Man,
Right. Tarnell.
Charnel.
Yeah.
Somebody else I'm missing. Uh, Haitian
Jim.
lady, Haiti lady,
Haiti lady. Yeah.
Haiti lady. Uh, all these like characters, man. Like, and they all had their own really cool, unique purpose. So, really, really, really dig that, man. What are your thoughts, I guess, about how the PJs when it came out? '99. Do you remember? You said it's one of your favorite shows. Do you remember watching it when it came out? Do you remember like what was
Yeah.
1999 for you? Because it came out in 1999, if I'm not correct. Or it was created in
Yeah.
'99.
Let's see. 99 was. I guess it depends on what year or what month.
Yeah, look, it came out. It was originally
October.
released in
No.
1999.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out. So it came out January '99. January '99. I was a senior in high school. Was I? Yeah. I was a senior. No. Senior in junior high school.
Yeah, I was like high school. I ain't go to high school in
Yeah.
2001.
I was a senior in junior high school, so I mean, just riding out those last bit of years. But I remember watching it just on a regular. I think it was on Fox, and I remember being excited
Was.
about it because it was claymation, because it was animated, because it was Eddie Murphy, and it felt like overall, rewatching the show. All right, so when I was younger, I never looked at it as stereotypes. I looked at it like this is like what it is, right? These are like different characters in the hood. Like it made sense. And like watching it now, there's a part of me initially like the first two episodes, like I'm laughing, I'm having fun, and then like I'm questioning like the purpose behind the show. It feels part of it. I'm like, should I be offended? Like, is Haiti lady offensive? Is this like stereotypical? Like, what's Eddie Murphy's premise behind making these characters? But I've just been letting go and just like appreciating it and loving it for what it is. And I think it's just a dynamic. Like you talked about, there's so many different characters and so many different personalities, and I think it's a fun and somewhat truthful representation of of the different people you'll meet in the projects or in the hood. That's how I see it as.
Yeah, you said exactly how I felt. I thought about it like when I watched the first two episodes, and this is more so around its significance back then. And I was thinking to myself, in 1999, was there anything like it? Like it was literally the first of its kind. And watching it now, I have thoughts, and we'll talk about our thoughts around it. But just thinking about 1999, I was, I'm a couple of years younger than you, so I was uh, also in middle school, also trying to like navigate being black in the hood of Brooklyn, and I have this really cool show. And I remember watching it, and like you said, I laugh my ass off now. I was really laughing back then because there was this relatable component to it. I related to it, and I believe that if you're someone who grew up in the projects, there's something there for you. Maybe not every character you relate to, but there's some character where you're like, yo, that's the dude in
And
2C.
4F. Right.
Like you just and I just yeah, and again, just like when we talked about during the holiday episode, it's extremely offensive. It's
Right.
extremely offensive. I actually wrote down it's hilariously offensive. Those are the words I wrote down when I was watching it. But it's Eddie Murphy's truth,
Right.
and that's why I have to respect it. And because it's Eddie Murphy's truth, and I can relate to it, being somebody who lived in my dad. He grew up in the projects in New York, in Brooklyn.
There,
That
right? Yeah.
no. So I lived in the Veer, and then my dad grew up in Brevoort Projects, which is over on Ralph Avenue in Utica. But it's
Ralph and Utica. Ralph and
well, it
Utica.
was on Fulton and Ralph, but
Got it. Okay.
it's straight. It ranges. It's the block is from Ralph to Utica,
Got
but
it.
and the thing that was really beyond anything was me thinking that back in 1999, I remember listening to a lot of Jay-Z. So I was thinking about the music I was listening to, and that's something that I'm starting to do when we look back at its significance. The music that was out at that time, the sports teams, what was happening back in those times. You know, you had the NBA lockout season was like right before it, I think '98. So there were things happening that culturally for Black people, there are just things happening, and this show comes out, and it's just really really cool. And I I feel like it's paved the way for a show like the Boondocks animated show, or a show like what are some Black animated shows out there? Animated shows that are not specifically like these cartoon superhero shows. I feel like that kind of paved the way because I don't remember anything before that. Um, and so that's what came to mind for me when it came to thinking about the significance.
I'm looking some up. I don't know it. I remember Bebe Kid.
Oh yeah, but that's a movie.
The Proud Family. Let's see. Static Shock. Little Bill. So I like listening to what you were saying. I was thinking about the time when it came out, and I feel like most Black television during that time was focused on like wholesomeness and positivity and all the I want to get this. I want to structure this properly. They were focused on on a singular perspective on a Black experience, right? We talked about Family Matters. We talked about Different World. We saw all the socially acceptable representations of the Black experience, and I think the PJs was like, yeah, but here's like another side of the reality of what the Black experience is, and here are all these characters. That's what I thought of when you were speaking.
Yeah, and a Black experience is more than just the Black family experience. I feel like a lot of shows they focus on family, family,
Right,
family,
right,
family.
right, right.
With the PJs, the community was a family, but they focused on the community. So you had people in different apartments. You had even the crackheads. Like they had their significance. Smokey has a significance, and he was funny. Like so that was something I really thought was dope. Rather than you know the PJs, or rather than Thurgood having all these kids, and the whole show is about him having these kids.
Right.
And so I thought that was something that was really cool as well. Like, and then what do you think about just like you said, claymation and animation, and you know the storylines? Like, what were your thoughts there?
I guess tying into what you were saying, I don't think I really consider the duality of Black family specific, like blood family, versus just like community family. Um, and I like no one was ever like the real butt of the joke except for like Thurgood. I feel like most of the brunt of the jokes were on him. Everyone else had unique characteristics or things that could be portrayed as being negative, but it was just more accepted, right? Like you had I'm gonna butcher these names. Let me get this right. I mean, like Miss Avery, right? You know, this old older woman who doesn't see well. She has a shotgun. Super knocks on
Always
the
with the
door,
gun.
shooting at the door with a shotgun. You have like Jimmy Cho and Loretta's sister,
Yeah.
excuse me, Muriel's sister, and just thinking about like there's traditionally I feel like there's like this one black woman who has a like a Hispanic or Asian husband or spouse. I feel like that's something that's true. Um, and everyone just hates Thurgood, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that. A lot of the storylines are about Thurgood, even though it feels repetitive at times. A lot of the storylines are Thurgood, trying to explore, trying to do something for the community. Like there was an episode, I believe it's episode uh 5, Rich Man Porn Man. Thurgood is a gas in a movie theater he helps clean up, becomes a porn theater. So he has like these good intentions to like bring the community back together and turn this old theater into a regular movie theater. Ends up being a porn theater, which is more lucrative. But there's always these missions for like community work. Like one of the last episodes I watched was when Calvin had the go-kart, and like Thurgood builds this ramp and he takes it and destroys it, and like, Smokey and his crackhead detective team are on the job. And like towards the end of it, you see that everyone used Calvin's go-kart for something different. Right? But Thurgood was like the one who finally destroyed it. And I just think that's dope, right? We all did it. We're community. We all did it. It's all our fault, but we all take accountability for it. And I think that's dope and that's honest, and that's something that we don't really get a lot of. Everyone being collectively at fault and everyone being just open about it. Like, yeah, I did it. My bad, I did it. I'm like, okay, let's move on.
Yeah, and the thing about it, for me, that was so significant. I feel like every episode, Thurgood was trying to do something for the community,
Right.
but it never worked out. There was always an issue. Like he would start with good intentions, and it just always. And I didn't watch the entire season. I watched probably like 6 episodes, and I guess just to let people know, season 1 there was 11 episodes, right? Season 1,
14.
14 episodes. I'm sorry, 14
Yeah.
episodes, and then we watched it on Hulu. So if you want to check it out, you can check it out on Hulu. And so I watched 6. I didn't get to watch the entire season. And every episode I watched, there was something he was doing to try to enhance the community. Obviously, the first couple episodes, he's trying to get them a new door, and the process of getting them a new door, and that was just hilarious. How
Right.
they weren't for it, then they were for it, and then the dogs end up stealing the door, and then
Right.
and it was just this whole process of him getting the door back, and then they got the door back, and then the dogs end up rocking with them and taking over the project, and to me, I've seen that in real life. Like I've
Right.
seen that type of shit in real life, so it wasn't anything to me that was out of the ordinary, and that's something I just really valued about the entire series, was that no matter what was happening, there was always a focus on community. And then there's one episode that stuck out to me. It was perfect for the times. It was episode, I don't know what number it was. I didn't write the number. It was the episode, maybe it was the second to last, or it was one of the last episodes where it's like a winter storm and they got to get the flu shots. Did you see that
Oh,
one?
yo.
So that episode was like, you're talking about something that like it translated world to what's going on in 2020, 2021 and 2022. Like the hesitancy, the black community is like, now we good, and the government is like, yo, yeah, I need these flu shots, and they end up not doing it. Muriel ends up getting the flu, and Thurgood is trying to take care of her and support her and be a good husband. And it literally reminded me of 2021. I saw 2021 watching that episode. But what were your thoughts? It looks like you had something that popped in your head as well.
Yeah, that's the same exact. I looked it up real quick. Season 1, episode 4, Journal Fever. That's the first thing that hit me. Just how quick we forget, right? Like, respectfully, I know everyone has their choices and beliefs, but just like being on Twitter and seeing, the arrogance of certain black people thinking that they know better. They thinking they know what's best for other people. Like there was this SNL skit with Slim and Queen. What's the black dude from Slim and Queen? There's a skit where it's like a Jeopardy show. It's a game show, and he's like bartering with his family to Daniel Kaluuya, and he's like a physician. He's like, oh, I'm a physician. I'm a doctor. He's like bartering and trying to pay his family money to, take the vaccination. And there's different types of family members. There's like the granddaddy, the sister, the uncle, and they're all like, nah, I'm good. So like, I see that video. I think about Twitter. I think about the social narrative on how, this blackness should be linear, right? Do what you're told, fall in line with what everyone wants, and I see that episode, and I'm like, did we forget? Like the history, thinking about Kwanzaa, like, did we forget that we learned this, and like there's this opportunity to do this, but it feels comforting. I think it feels comforting. The series feels comforting because I think, to an extent, it's still a reality, right? Like personally, my perspective is like part of the black experience, right? Is escaping that, right? Like I live around the corner from there. I lived on 35th and Newkirk. So I know their life. I know, LG. I know the projects. I know what it is. But part of the experience in the chase is leaving that behind, right? I'm better than Brooklyn. I go to school in Manhattan. I'm better than Manhattan. I go to school in Connecticut. I escape all of that. But watching this and knowing that there's still a reality, there's still an understanding, there's still all these small minor things, community, right? Like going to the Kwanzaa event, seeing community, is knowing that as much as I can escape as an individual, this reality of the black experience is still prominent. And sometimes I feel like unless, we all aren't free. No one's free until we're all free, right? So although certain black people are in different situations in their life, there's still this underrepresented group still going through it, unfortunately. And just thinking about the different ways to elevate that situation, or rather just kind of redefine the experience, right? Like, what if Thurgood had, because I think like for the porn theater, he forgot to pick up a movie. He just kind of picked a random one. What if he had the funding?
He went and asked the guy in the corner. He asked the guy in the corner.
Tarnell, right? He asked Tarnell to, excuse me. Yeah, right. But like, what if he had planned ahead and like had a catalog of movies? Then the theater maybe would have been something different and would have had like a better standing. Like a lot of I think a lot of the downside of like his efforts to build community is just not having enough. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I guess my question to you, like, what do you think? What's the overall theme as to why a lot of his plans to build the community don't work out?
Yeah, I think that was on purpose. I think that was just to make the show funny, because there are episodes, even that particular episode, when they like, it had me cracking up. But they go down to the what is it? They go down to the HWD or
HUD, yeah.
HUD, right? They go down to HUD. They're like, oh, we want to buy this. Go ahead.
Housing Urban Development, I believe.
Yeah, Housing Urban Development. They're like, we want to buy this movie theater. They're like, oh yeah, it caught, you usually you can get it for $1, and it takes them 6 months to raise $1.
Yo, I forgot about that. Yo,
so in my head, I was like, this is funny, but at least the community came together. Like they,
right.
Literally, you see 6 months later, then they raise the money to get the theater. They get it, but then they can't renovate it because they're like, it costs tens of thousands of dollars to renovate it. Right, they do everything themselves. Thurgood is trying to rally the troops, but the kids are the only ones helping out, and he ends up making it happen. So, to me, I saw a triumph in that episode, even though it led to the porn it becoming a porn theater. But even that was kind of funny because they were making money. Like everybody was living large
Right.
from the money that was coming from. So I thought a lot of it was him just trying to be funny, and I want to be fair because what you're doing is exactly what Fox wants us to do, and this was something that I wanted to bring up during this episode because Eddie Murphy wasn't the face of the PJs. He didn't, in my research and the articles I read, he didn't really want to be the face of the PJs. Yes, the story is uh, predominantly his story, and the characters are based off him, and he voices Thurgood. But for him, it was another project that he did that was going to come out at some point, and he worked with other creators and producers. But because he was the face, because he was the person that was popular at that time, everything, all the marketing, everything was like Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy. um, and when I was reading, and I also read this in the LA Times, that they were trying to get Eddie Murphy to do like press for it, and he just was like, "Nah." He's like, "Nah, I got other things happening," um, and didn't end up supporting them when it came to the press like they would like, especially there was some conflict with him and Fox because of it. But when we saw it at home, in our heads were like, "This is Eddie Murphy show. This is Eddie Murphy show,"
Right.
because we there's value in who Eddie Murphy is and what he's created. So like, this is Eddie Murphy show. But there were others that pushed it to get to where it got, and I try to see, and I didn't get a chance to look it up, but I don't know if Eddie Murphy ever talked about it. Like I've never seen him talk about it. I haven't seen any videos or anything of him. Um, and in my research, I couldn't really find anything with him actually talking about it. So that side of it, I want to be very clear on because we all look at it like Eddie Murphy's show, but
Right.
he's one of the creators, but he wasn't the guy that really pushed it.
That's interesting to know. I didn't know that. And I guess I'll do some more research on that, and I'll dig a bit more through the internet to see if there's anything with him talking about the show. How did you feel about the kids? I feel like that's an important dynamic we haven't touched on. Calvin and Juicy.
I thought they were funny. I just thought it was funny. Like Calvin, obviously Calvin to me had a little more brains than Juicy, but
Right.
Juicy was just a fat kid that eats. The sound was hilarious. His mom putting that sound on him had me dying. But again, it reminded me so much of the kids in the projects who have nothing to do, nowhere to
Right.
go, and they're just hanging around with the elders. They're kicking it with
Right.
the super of the project. That's literally what popped into my head. Um, and I really thought that some of the jokes. So I wrote down one of the lines he said to. Pretty sure Thurgood said this to Juicy when he's like, "The water's not hot," and Calvin said, no, Thurgood said, "The water ain't hot because your daddy ain't working."
Dang.
He's like, "The water not hot because your daddy ain't working." So some of the stuff he was saying to these kids was just extremely inappropriate.
Right.
Like how his rebuttals, they would just be out of control. But the kids themselves, it was weird not seeing. You only seen Juicy's like mom at the door. You never seen her do anything else. But
Right.
like what? And like I said, I haven't watched every single episode, so maybe there is opportunity for that. But the 6 episodes I watched, every time I saw his mom, she was literally like opening the door, letting him in or letting him out. And then there were a lot of them looking out the window, him and Calvin looking out the window. But I didn't really, I feel like as kids in the projects, you want to stay within who's the responsible adult,
Right.
and Thurgood is essentially the responsible adult in the show. So,
Right.
um,
And it's how you stay safe. One thing that going back to the idea of like the unique characters. There's an episode 10, Operation Gumbo Drop, where Thurgood has this special gumbo that he makes that everyone knows and loves, and he has like his own secret recipe. And Juicy tastes it, and he's like, paprika, onion. He's just listing all the ingredients. And Thurgood's like, wait, how do you know that? He's like, Juicy's like, but it's missing something. I think 3 bay leaves. So he puts the bay leaves in, and it elevates the dish. And then there's a gumbo contest going on, and it's Thurgood, Smokey's in it. Thurgood, Smokey, Juicy, and what's that weird dude's name? Mr. Hudson. And I like that, although Juicy's like the comical, the chubby big kid in the project, you learn that, right? Because he eats so much, he has this refined palate. And you see his expertise, right? And for me, it was like a reminder that everyone has something innately in them. And I just imagine, Juicy becoming like a head chef down the line, which is something that I think is dope. And like going back to the idea of, although, there's all these unique and different characters, everyone has a skill set, and although like everyone kind of gets the joke, everyone gets it at the end of the day, right? Everyone gets joked on, but everyone still has something special and unique about them. I guess for Juicy, it's the cuisine, it's food. For Super, it's wanting to kind of bring the community together. There's an episode where they like do a community garden on the rooftop, right? And I'm just thinking about going around, different neighborhoods in Brooklyn, and you seeing community gardens and seeing all these different aspects to kind of building community. And it's like Super is doing all of this in this like 16-story high rise. And it just felt dope, right? It just always seeing that his mind is always on, okay, like, let's do this, right? We can have free fruits and vegetables. And Miss Avery was like, can I still get my benefits?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, of course you can still get your benefits. He's like, good, because I don't like welfare, anything like that. So it's it's just funny, like the jokes that we're talking about, all finding a way to get on people, but it's still community focused. It's still focused on growth and finding a way to kind of be independent from the struggles of the man, right? Like that's what it is.
Yeah, that's actually a great episode to bring up, because that episode there was something different about Thurgood in that episode that I didn't see in the previous episodes that I watched, because Haiti lady was doing all this voodoo magic. She cursed him in that episode,
Right.
and just to backtrack really quickly, the way he treats her and talks about her is out of control, bro.
Right.
Like the shit he gives her in these episodes, he is tearing her up, and I didn't understand why he was so mad at her. Like even in the first episode, he says something to her, and I was just like, damn, bro, why you so mad? Like basically, go back to your country type thing. Like, bro,
Right.
So what's good with that? But this episode was interesting because he was being his typical self. She curses. She's like, you're cursed, and then supposedly none of it was working. So she didn't really curse him, but she hit him with supposedly voodoo. So everybody's like freaking out. They're not dealing with him. They're like, yo, go that way. And Meryl, right? Meryl is his
Muriel.
Muriel jumps in and basically gives him, and that's one thing about her. She kept him on his toes. She kept getting on him, making sure that she was a good wife, great character too, by Loretta Devine. And
kind of reminds me of Harriet Winslow, right?
Very, very Harriet like.
Yeah.
She just like called him out when he needed to be called out, but in this particular episode, she talks to him about the Haiti lady leaving, because she's leaving. She's like, my magic's not working anymore. I'm out, and I'm going back to Haiti, right? So what he did, which I thought was genius, is he found a way to basically bring her back and get her back involved with the community in a funny way. So he was trying to grow grapes for wine and create wine,
Right.
and he ends up putting vinegar in the wine and being like, yeah. And then they're like, oh my God, you are cursed. And then she's like, oh my God, like I really cursed you. And I thought that was something that was really cool for him to be able to
Right.
to basically humanize it and be like, you know what, you're more valuable here with us. You're a part of our family. You're part of this community. I don't really want to do this, but let me do this. And I just thought that was really cool. That was something I only seen in that episode. That type of dynamic.
And something I'm also considering is because I kind of fell in and out of sleep during that episode. Like I watched it like 2 times and I kept falling asleep because I was watching like 5 a.m. in the morning. But it's better to have your old neighbors than to get new neighbors. I think that's part of it too, right? It's better to like know. It's better to know your neighbors. It's better to have this community, this tight knit group where I know everyone, than it is to have someone new in the mix who might mess things up. And I don't remember seeing that in this season, so maybe it'll be season 2, season 3. I feel like that's a good angle. Like I'm thinking about the real big dude who excuse me.
You just
The
see his
real
arm.
big dude. Right, who could be Calvin in the future, right? Like if Calvin doesn't get his stuff together. And like, he never steps out the house. Like, he might be agoraphobic, but he's also just big. But like you know him, man. He's part of the community, right?
Hudson.
Hudson, yeah. He's like Juicy. Hold on, your mother left a dozen cookies for you. She left 6 cookies. We'll give you whatever's left over. Like, it, after a while, you just, like family, right? After a while, you don't take things personal. After a while, it's just like, this is just who they are. It's no animosity. There's no hatred. This is just what it is, and you figure out how to deal with it. And I think that's important, and I think that kind of connects to the idea of Haiti lady leaving. Like because on my end, I grew up with just a small family, so I'm not innately used to different dynamics and different personalities, and having to accept it. Most of the personalities I've had to accept are just my mother's, my sisters, and my father's. So I think especially being young and having all these unique personalities around you, it makes you more tolerable than just like having a small family or just being secluded. So familiarity, excuse me, is comforting, and I think it's important to like growth and tolerance. And I think that's like another. I feel like talking through this, we're finding a lot of underlined key themes throughout the show that are dope and represent what the Black experience is.
Yeah, 100%. Even the guy, what was his name? Emilio, the guy with the with the smoke, with the voice. Isn't that what's his name? Oh my god.
Sanchez.
Yeah, Emilio. Yeah, Emilio Sanchez.
Yeah.
That's him. He had me dying. Like him with that device, and we all have. I've seen people in my neighborhood with that
Right.
thing. Like
Right.
I
Right. Right.
literally saw my neighbor, and he has his cane, and it was just funny, man.
It's too real. It's not too real. It's just real, bro. Like it's real. It's real. It's real, bro. It's not storybook content. Go ahead, sorry.
No, and no, it's real, and that's why I say it, uh, like I say it. So I loosely, I'm loosely offended by it because it is so real. Because I, just like when we were watching, we talked about the Moondocks, and I was like, yo, this episode is super offensive. I didn't even think about it from it being like, yo, this can be a real life for some people. Obviously, that episode wasn't like this. They're two different shows, but looking at all the backlash that the show got and people protesting it, and I read that actors and directors like Spike Lee were like, no, this is this is offensive to us as a Black community, and it's showing people inside of us that it is we don't, this is not the truth for us anymore. This is not our truth. But it was Eddie Murphy's show. It's based on Eddie Murphy's truth.
Right.
So I had to take a seat back and think about it and be like, you know what, I'm gonna take it for what it's worth. My favorite character, hands down, is Smokey. He is remarkable to me. So he's so exquisite with the things that he does,
Right. Right.
and he just was a great. Just every episode I watched him, and he did something that I was like, yeah, this is so funny. Like, this is hilarious. And everybody has things, but he was just on a whole nother. Even when the episode, I think it was the movie theater episode when the movie theater burns down, and he's like singing at the end of that. He's singing with the pigeon on the stick, and
Right,
the
right, right,
pigeons
right.
is just like, what? Yo, Smokey, yo.
He,
Uh,
he's refined, right? We traditionally, when you think of, and like using the word crackhead kind of feels derogatory, but I mean, he was a crackhead.
I'm just going
But
based on the character being called that.
right, right, right. Traditionally, they're just seen as people who are just fiends, right? It's looking for the next hit and the next fix. But periodically, right, you get a refined crackhead who is like articulate, who is skilled. Like he helped them find the door. He
Yeah.
won. He ended up he ended up winning the gumbo contest, and the judge, Mr. Hudson, was it? I think it was Mr. Hudson. He said, what is that? Is that cracked pepper?" And he was like, something like that. Like he put crack in the gumbo to get them hooked. But he like I said, he was the detective when it came to Calvin's go kart. They humanize him. I think you brought up that word earlier, right? They
Yep.
humanize him in a unique way, so he isn't just the butt. Like again, everyone's a joke, but everyone has something respectable about them, and that's something I definitely liked about Smokey. I like Tarnell. I just because he's just like Hustle Man.
Yeah.
Tarnell is like Hustle Man from Martin, right? You don't really understand what he's saying. Like you tell him you need movies. Like I can't even imitate his voice. He tells you he got you, right. I got you. I
He,
got
he
you.
he was talking about pies. He was like Betty Crocker. He was
Betty
like,
Cracker bad. That's for the past. This sad. This that. Like just the cliche jive talk. Um, and he comes short, but like that's on you. Like why you keep going back to him, right? Like he's allowed it. He's embodied, and he's I guess emboldened to kind of keep doing that because you keep going to him at the last minute thinking he'll be better next time, but he won't. He is who he is.
oh man. Uh, so just to go back to Smokey quickly, I didn't see it, and maybe you can tell me if you saw it. I didn't see not one episode where Smokey asked for crack, where he bothered somebody, where he asked for drugs from any of the young people. None of it. Every episode I seen him in, he was homeless and doing, but but there was always some type of intellect. Always.
Right,
There was never an episode where he was like he out strung out fiending and they see him later. He just always was doing something witty to maybe
right,
try to get money or try to get something. But you never seen him using drugs. You never, and it reminded me of the drug dealers in my neighborhood, the addicts in my neighborhood, who they were ashamed for what they're being hooked on drugs, but they never treated you, the young people, the neighbors. They really never treated you disrespectfully. I could go to them as a kid and say hello and keep it moving.
right,
And they didn't want you to see that side of them, but they had this substance abuse issue. And that's what I saw with Smokey when I was watching it. I was just thinking of like the people in my neighborhood where I walk by in the corner store and they'd be like, "Hey, can you get me a juice or something?" And I get it from them, and then we keep it moving. It's how you doing? Or
right,
you may walk by one day and you see them spitting game to some kids, teaching some kids about not getting into the life, and you're like, "You in the life? How you telling them about
right,
it?"
right, right, right.
That's what I saw with Smokey, and that's why he resonated with me so much. Even when Thurgood during the episode when Thurgood gets to the movie theater and he has a flashback and he's like, "Man, I remember when I first came here," and then Smokey, it's just so good, man. It's so good. Oh man, what a character, Eddie Murphy. We need more shows like this, man.
It's
So
I
good.
know I never thought about that, but that's something I'm going to be mindful of moving forward. Like watching it to see if he does ever ask for it, because I watched a few more episodes than you, and I don't vividly remember him ever doing that. But I like you saying that we need more shows like this. Um, Recently, I've been thinking about reality TV and how a lot of like negativity when it comes to the black experience is represented in reality TV. So it becomes like self-defining because you see it's reality TV. This is I'm telling you this is the reality. You see people behaving a certain way, so this is what you think it is. Because that's just what the black experience always has been. But with cartoons, you know there's some type of disassociation. So like going back to what you said about like people like Spike Lee, who's I mean, respectfully, Spike Lee and directors wanting to ban it, it you have to fill that void because it is a reality. Like we've been saying, like these are familiar experiences for us growing up. And watching it as an adult, it's funny, it's comical, it's good to kind of be aware of it. But you know, we're seeing the new layered responses and the nuances behind it, right? So, like thinking about Spike Lee being an adult, like let's say he was like in his 30s when this show came out. If he was more laid and aware, right, then he would be seeing it the way we see it. But since he's kind of on this linear perspective of, you know, blackness needs to be represented in a good light and all of that, he misses the point. He misses the point and the potential of what the show represents. And I think the end result is kind of being stuck, like I said, like in this reality TV era when it's just real people doing all these negative offering these negative portrayals where it could be and it should be cartoon and characters, so it's disassociated and it doesn't feel too personal and too offensive.
Yeah, and I'm just recapping some of the notes that I wrote about how uh, the debate wasn't so much about the content, more so about how it was presented. And one of the arguments on the good side, or on the side that like, yo, this is a good thing, is one of the directors or writers stated that these characters exist in black communities, and a lot of comedians have talked about them on stage in their acts. All we did was make it into a TV show.
Right.
But if you look at a lot of the stand up, if you look at Chappelle, the person quotes Richard Pryor. He says a lot of these characters are already in Pryor's act. It just we created we created where you visually can see these characters. And does that make it any more okay? Like, and I think that's what the shuffle is. And then I didn't get into it, but I think a thing that really, now that I'm now I'm going on 35 and I understand news and I understand media, with this black show being on Fox, like what if the show was on BT? What if the show was on Adult Swim? Would it have been more accepted?
Right.
I don't think there was an Adult Swim in '99, but as TV has evolved, there have been uh, upgrades and there have been additions added to the type of content we can take. Like I remember when you couldn't say ass and shit on TV, and now
Right.
you have people. It doesn't get censored out. So I think Fox has always been looked at as the racist the racist channel, especially the news, Fox News. So
Right.
with this type of content and this type of show series being aired on Fox, could that be something that played a role in it as well? And that's
I like that. Sorry.
it, I don't know, but that's something I was thinking of too. I was like, man, if this was on, because you think about the cartoons like SpongeBob. SpongeBob, if you look at SpongeBob, some of the stuff in there is
It's
wild, bro.
adult. It's adult.
Right? You got SpongeBob. You have, like Futurama. Futurama is not terrible, but they have it gets crazy. But like King of the Hill or Family Guy, they be wilding with some of the things they put in at The
Right.
Simpsons. They be wilding sometimes, but
It's
I feel like
allowed.
right
Sorry,
they're
go
on
ahead.
no, you're absolutely right. It's allowed. They're on the appropriate channel. If I'm willing to bet, and we will never know, but I'm willing to bet if the PJs was on BET or one of those channels, there would have been a difference in how people would have received it.
Yeah, I really like that perspective, and I'm going through the stations that we had. It was UPN 9, underpaid Negroes, right? um, what was remember like all the funny acronyms? There was like UPN, underpaid Negroes. There was CBS. Was it like Color Broadcasting System? I forget the different jokes they had. Um, I don't know. I don't know because I feel like BET was just BET like focusing on that era. I think that's part of it too, right? BET in the '90s was just hip hop, right? Hip hop was just like the only thing that really mattered for the black experience, like in the '90s. You had the Tigger, you had what was that skinny dude? I forgot his name. I think he was like on that Noon. And then I mean, like from
Uh,
what from Noon to what 8,
I'm at
it was
106 in
just
Park.
yeah, 106 at Park. It was just it was just music videos, right? It's like MTV. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it was on a different. I don't know if it being on a different station would help. Um, you had like the Wayne's brothers. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question, man. That's a good question. I'll think about that. I'm gonna be stuck on this for a minute thinking about it.
Yeah,
That's a
well,
good question.
we got to keep in mind that again, I have to look at it from both sides. What BT is today, it wasn't in 1999. What Adult Swim is today, I don't know if there even was an Adult Swim in 1999. Then you have channels like Spike TV, and those are the type of channels I can see the PJs being on. Those those types of channels. So I have to look at it from both sides because I just don't know. But what I do know is that uh, you can look at it any way you like, whoever you want, however you want to look at it. But the proofs that are put in, this is Eddie Murphy's characters based on Eddie Murphy's life. That's it. That's the truth. That's it. So no matter if you feel offended by it, don't watch it. Which in the research and the things that I read, people didn't watch it. They spent all
Right.
this money and the people's not watching it. So it only did 3 seasons, and then some of the seasons and episodes didn't even air. So it happens. It was a learning experience. But yeah, I think that's important to keep in mind. And um, I need to know, man, what made you choose this to go with this show? I appreciate it.
So, real quick before I answer that, so
Yeah.
what came to mind is I think it had to be on Fox, and I think it had to be on a um, non-traditional black network. The first thing I'm thinking about is who's the show for, right? Who is it for? Is it for black people to like to see that experience and find humor in it? Could be. Is it a way for other communities to see a different side of the black experience? Could be, like we talked about earlier, with a lot of the black shows just being family rooted and oriented, and this show kind of redefining it. But I think that it wouldn't work on a black network because someone like going back to like Spike Lee, that black people wouldn't want to see the truth of their experience, right? I think there is going back to what I said about seeing people on Twitter and this the linear perspective. Everyone needs to do what we're doing. The truth is, we watched it as kids, right? We watched it as kids. I don't know any adults who watched it, but we watched it as kids and we found humor in it because that's just like like that's like you said, that's Miss J and 4F. That's this person there. It's funny. As adults, where we have this newer perspective because we're kind of redefining our experience and we're not just looking for offense in things, we're kind of finding truth in things. But I think had it been like comparing the Wayans brothers, the Jamie Foxx show, a One on One, Homeboys in Outer Space, all of them were just like lighthearted comedy, nothing too stereotypical. The Cosby Show, but this show is rooted in stereotypes that I think the average black person would find offensive. Yeah, I guess anything to add to that before I answer your question.
No, you again. You you're entitled to feel the way you feel.
All
I
right.
can't. I can't. I don't. I don't. I hear what you're saying, but I think overall, uh, because of shows like that, shows like where did the Boondocks? What
The
channel was
Boondocks
that?
was on Adult Swim initially, I
Adult
believe.
Swim, right? The Boondocks. I don't know if they have. Obviously, I've only watched that one episode, and it was intense. So I don't know if they have similar tone, but that is on TV. That made it to Adult Swim.
Right, but Adult Swim is niche. It's a niche. It's a niche. It's a niche segment, like time block, where you can have all these different themes. And I don't think it really existed in 1999.
Yeah. So yeah, we can table it there, because I think you and I are saying the same thing, right? That's why I was like, hey, I think we have to look at it from both sides, because if there was a Adult Swim in 1999, I feel like this would have been something that would be on it. So
right.
So yeah, we're aligned there.
All right. Why did I choose this? Nostalgia, remembering how funny it was, and wanting to kind of again gain new perspective. Thinking about there's a little bit of reverb. I'm not sure if the headphones are too loud. Maybe.
No, I didn't do anything different.
Okay. I think wanting to revisit it. Like the faint memory of the show is remembering having these stereotypical themes, and I think it's important to kind of challenge the older perspectives, right, and see how I feel about the show now, right? Like shows like A Different World, shows like Family Matters, all the safe shows, right? The shows that are not meant to be offensive. You get. I feel like we get the same kind of general feeling from this. I think the PJs like really pushed the boundaries, like similar to a show like The Boondocks, and yeah, I wanted to see if I still felt the same way. Like I said, I watched the first episode. I thought it was hilarious, but then I started watching it, and I started feeling a way, and I'm like going through the thoughts. I'm like, yo, is this offensive? Is this wrong? I don't like the way they doing Haiti Lady. I don't like the way they got her shape. And it's like nah, like it's all the things we've been saying, like and all the ideas and thoughts we've been unraveling. That's mostly it, man. Just wanted to gain a new perspective, and I'm glad, like going back and forth, it's helped evolve the thought a bit more.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you choosing it. It was definitely a great pick, and it reminded me of a show like Insecure, and because I remember when Insecure first came out, a lot of people didn't really align with the storyline. There was challenges with the storyline, but the thing is it's Issa Rae's story.
Right.
Like it's how she sees it. It's how she lived it, seen it, created it. She's the creator, and if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it.
Right.
If it ain't for you, it ain't for you. There's several things out there that's just not for me, so I don't watch. And there's other ones that, I'm like, oh, I really love this. A Different World, it wasn't for me. When I first watched it, I was like, it's trash. And then I fell in love with it.
Right.
So, it happens. So yeah, man, good stuff. Good stuff today. Appreciate anything else you want to add?
Nah, that's it, man. Are we doing, so since there's only 3 seasons, so do you want to do season 2 as its own for episode 2, and then the Clubhouse would just be season 3?
Yeah, I think we have to see how many episodes are in season 2 and 3. I don't think there's that many, so it might not. It makes sense. It maybe makes sense for us just to talk about both in one episode.
17 for season 2. Season 3 has 12.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think season 2 for sure. The next episode, and then we can do the Clubhouse. We'll do season 3. Yeah.
Got it.
But yeah, this is great, man. Good stuff. Thank you as always for just the conversation, man. We've dissected some shit, bro.
Right.
And this is no different than the dopeness we've been talking about. So yeah, I don't have anything else to add. If you want to add anything else,
Nah, I'm all set. Happy New Year, and that's it. Peace.
Peace out, guys.
Thanks for listening. You can find us on Clubhouse for bi-weekly club discussions and occasional recaps at Nothing Moves Without Us. Please follow our TikTok and Instagram at A Black Culture Podcast. And you can watch podcast episodes on YouTube at Nothing Moves Without Us, a Black Culture Podcast.